Good morning everyone, and welcome to part 9 of Infernum, where in today's episode, I'm going to take out the Brimstone Elemental, the Aquatic Scourge, and Skeletron Prime. So first, I head down to the underworld and the Brimstone Crag to set up an arena for the Brimstone Elemental to get straight into the action. Building a respawn box because I will die several times. Then expand the arena a little bit and then build the top platform and have a go at the first attempt at the boss. So it starts off with this flying above you and shooting brimstone blasts. So kind of just go above or below. That's not too bad. This attack here with the wavering skulls and brimstone blasts, really hard for me. And it's doing this sort of brimstone barrage. You just run away. I found that out quite quickly. And then it's doing this brimstone skull thing again. And eventually it does this brimstone rose attack, I suppose. I don't know what to call it. I found going in a circle hook quite a bit. Yeah, and then I do end up dying because it's the first attempt. Eventually you get the death laser, which is fun. It's not. It's really annoying. I die again and again, but finally, here's the final attempt. Well, for now. It's the attempt, I beat it. It's doing the brimstone blast, so hit above or below to dodge those. It's doing the brimstone barrage, so you just go really far away. Can't really do any damage because of how far away you are, but it's super easy to avoid if you go far away. In the brimstone rose attack, you want to stay close and circle the boss. It's doing the wavering skulls. I found to go in in a sort of circular pattern for that helps a lot. Yeah. This fight is mainly a circle simulator. Yeah, it's doing the brimstone petals. And then the brimstone blasts above and below. Not too bad. So for the weapon I'm using the Mega Shark because it's high damage, high range, high fire rate. So it's quite easy to use. This fight's taking quite a long time. This is quite a tanky boss. I mean, my damage is good to be fair, actually. The Mega Shark does deal good damage. And about... Oh, I can't read that, it's too small. Hang on, let me just enlarge the picture for me in editing so I can actually read the boss bar. Yeah, and then at 25% I'm getting this, there's this death laser. You just want to bait it, it is quite hard to do. You can circle around it, but it shoots a load of projectiles behind it, so that's probably not a great idea. It's the brimstone petal. And the wavering skulls again. I go off my arena a bit. I'm in a bit of a bad position. It's taking like no damage because I can't hit it. And then it does the Brimstone Petal phase again. And then I finally take it out with... And then it has this death animation. Don't be fooled, it's not some kind of desperation phase. It just dies, so... And that wasn't too bad. However, I will have to fight it several times to get the Hellborn, which is... It's the 10% drop, basically. Yeah, so there's a bit of a montage here. A few deaths, a few taking out the boss. Then I open a few treasure bags after duplicating them with journey mode. And eventually I get the Hellborn, which is a fast firing shotgun, which, if you head really close, has a melee attack, which increases the fire rate for a bit. I didn't see the magic mirror in my inventory, so I just dive into lava to go back to spawn. It works. It's not hardcore, is it? Then after that, I go straight into another boss and make the seafood for the Aquatic Scourge, and then start building Aquatic Scourge's arena. You see, in Infernum, this is an underwater fight, so you have to build your arena underwater. So after building the arena, I decide to give the boss a bit of a go. So it starts off with shooting these spreads of like sulphur acid drops, and then it's dashing, and then creating sulphurous debris. So for the dash, just dash away. And then it rains down the sulphurous debris. So you kind of just dash circular and hope the debris doesn't hit you. And eventually I do end up dying to the thing. Yeah, this tornado is awful, by the way. Yeah, I died several times to this boss. To be fair, it's the hardest boss in this episode. And even then, it's not too bad. I think it took about 11 attempts. Right, so the boss starts by doing its sulphuric acid attack. You just spin in a circle. Most of this boss is circle simulator, to be fair. And definitely in the first phase, especially. And the second as well. Like all the underwater parts, so... Yeah, you saw this first phase from the first attempt. Yeah, the gimmick of this fight is that you've got to go into these bubbles. Well, not the green ones, like the blue bubbles, to recover your acid meter, because you can't just head out of the water. And the effigy of decay doesn't give you full immunity in this fight. Right, around 66% health, it enters phase 2. Where it starts dashing faster, and then it has this attack where it shoots a barrage of these sulphurous sand teeth. You can kind of just pivot around the boss. Like, the boss itself is a bit of a pivot for that attack. It does this raining debris thing again. Yeah, the boss is a bit of a pivot here, so if you can circle it and stay close to the boss, you don't get hit by the sanity. Yeah, I did get really low, as you saw a moment ago. For my weapon for this fight, I'm using the titanium railgun, because it pierces infinitely and does a lot of damage per hit. I just found it's like the main consistent option. There is the superstar shooter, but that is way too powerful. I wanted an actual challenge in this fight, so I decided to ban the superstar shooter. Yeah, and then in phase 3, it forces you out of the water, dashes at you really quickly. And it can do this sulphurous acid rain thing. And eventually it does the acid tornado, which is awful. I don't know how you dodge that. The only reason I didn't die was the hallowed armor set bonus. And then one final railgun. And I take it out. And it's got this really cool death animation where it spits up some debris and kind of dies. Anyway, open the bag, and none of this stuff is particularly useful. So yeah. There is a 10% drop from this boss, but I probably won't get it. And then after that, I start fishing for some sulphurous crates. Or no, the hydrothermal crates, that's the hard mode version. In hopes of getting some tier 2 acid rain drops. And I get some open up some crates, and I don't really get anything of use. So head back to base, try to escape the pirates, don't end up escaping the pirates, and yeah, you can... Eventually I figure out that the Daedalus Stormbow with napalm arrows is really good for the pirates on the roof, and then once they get near your door you can use the Hellborn's melee attack because it does a ton of damage. Oh no, I just said a swear word, didn't I? It does a lot of damage. No swearing here. And then I do the tier 2 acid rain for some to try and get the flak toxic cannon, and there it is. And then I get sent home unwillingly. And basically, the flak toxic cannon is this rocket launcher that shoots a flak shell that explodes into toxic sludge. So, and does quite a lot of damage. I think more damage than my other weapons. And I make the corroded Corster bow, which shoots these acid trail, or these shells trailed by like sulfuric acid. I must have been using it wrong. But anyway, next is Skeletron Prime, which really wasn't too bad. First it starts shooting these lasers and stuff, and rockets, and then it sends out the melee arms, which you can actually, one of the few things you can actually ram into to get that, activate the Hellborn's effect. And it's shooting these metal spikes, which you don't want to move too fast for. And then there's this spread of everything. Oh no, and then it's the dashes with spikes, they just go above or below. And yeah, I do end up dying. Oh no, yeah, I do end up dying to this attack where it dashes and does the spikes. Alright, so after a couple of deaths, here is the final attempt. Literally, this only took like 5 attempts, and I think 2 of them were like random spawns in previous episodes. So yeah, for phase 1 I'm using the Hellborn. Yeah, it's really quick because of the extra effect. So there's the next it does this spread of spikes, so just move slowly for that. And it's doing the circle of skulls, so you just want to go in a circle yourself for that to dodge it. It's a bit like the skull attack for Skeletron in vanilla, but with like extra rockets. In this dash attack you want to go like, you want to dash in the other direction that the boss is dashing in. It's quite simple. For this you want to do small movements, just tap the movement keys. You don't want to do any sudden movements or any large movements for that. Yeah, I'm really not very good at dodging that, am I? Yeah, because of how fast this boss moves, I deal like no damage. So yeah. Yet again, I'm using the Mega Shark for its using the Mega Shark for the high fire rate and high damage. I think the damage is actually slightly less than the Hellborn. Like DPS wise. And plus the Hellborn has its special effect. Which, I'm not really using it that much because you don't really get the opportunity in Infernum because the bosses are made to be fought from a long distance rather than close up. Just going close up to Infernum bosses, you'll just get hit by all the projectiles. It's more of a bullet hell sort of mod. So yeah, it's doing dashing spikes, and then at about 40% health, it enters phase 3, I think. Yeah, phase 3. I managed to get an adrenaline before it shoots the death laser. And for the death laser, you do not want to be flying up like that, because you'll just run out of wing time and hit the death laser. I did have my Hallow dodge for that though. Right, so it's doing its laser thing again. It's alright to head down if you've got enough space. No clue why it shoots so many projectiles while it's doing the death laser, because you don't really have the room to dodge those with the death lasers. And also, why does every Infernum boss in hard mode have a death laser? I think the only ones that don't are like Aquatic, Scourge and the Destroyer. Literally. But after a long fight, I managed to take out Skeletron Prime. And from the bag, I get hallowed bars, which I made most of the stuff with that, to be fair, after the Destroyer. And I also get Swords of Fright, which will be used for the flamethrower, which will be useful later on, but not now. But anyway, that's all I've got time for in this episode, so see you lot in the next one.